Hello, you're listening to Work From Home, a Lower Street podcast where we help you stay connected, productive, and sane whilst working remotely. Today, we're looking at how to do text-based stand-ups, how COVID-19 is affecting consumer trends, and a good news show from one of the stars of the American office. First up, we have a blog from UpTech by De-Pont. And UpTech is a consultancy, and their team is often working on various different projects and clients in different locations. And so they need to pretty regularly have stand-up meetings and get a grasp of what everybody's doing at a certain time. And normally they would have their stand-up meeting in person, face-to-face in the office, but they're not able to do that at the moment. So their solution is text-based. And this is interesting because obviously we've seen a huge rise in the number of video calls and conferences that have been happening recently, but text-based meetings aren't something that I've seen a huge amount about. And we'll have a link to the blog in the show notes and you'll be able to copy and paste their format for their stand-up text-based meeting from there. But it's pretty simple. Basically, everybody puts down what they were doing yesterday, and they split up what they were doing yesterday either by individual tasks or by clients, and then they say what they're doing today, and then they also add their blockers, anything that's preventing them from doing the task that they're trying to do now, or that could prevent them from doing it in the near future. Then everybody pastes that into their Slack channel, and then they basically take it from there. And the idea is that you can come in and then take a look at what everyone was doing, what they're doing at the moment, and any help that they may need. And so this looks like a pretty concise and succinct way to do a stand-up meeting over text. And I'm interested to hear, do you do any of your stand-ups via text? Let us know. Email us wfh@lowerstreet.co. And next up is some information on consumer trends from Glimpse. And this is really interesting because they're looking at how interest and buying habits have changed over the past month or so as everyone's gone into remote working or self-isolation or things like that. And some of the trends you wouldn't necessarily expect. For example, interest in DIY haircuts has gone up 221%. Also, interest in dumbbells has gone up 725%, which will probably explain why I have been totally unable to find any of them online for sale. They are all totally out of stock. Interest in the video game Animal Crossing is up 2,317%, which I suppose is understandable. It was released recently, and it looks like exactly the sort of calming game that you might want to play at a time like this. And some of the perhaps less obvious ones are interest and purchases for yeast for bread are up 1,121%. And interest for FaceTime is up 548%, which I suppose isn't very surprising. This is a really interesting website, and although it may not be a huge amount of help for your business to know that yoga mat interest and purchases are up 93% over the past month, but it is very interesting to look at. And I suppose we're all looking for interesting things to spend some time checking out at the moment. So we will have this website linked in the show notes. And finally, if you're a fan of The American Office, then John Krasinski has a new online show, which he's calling Some Good News, where he interviews other cast members of The Office and he brings them on and they tell their stories of working on The Office. And he also, John, does highlight some good news stories from around the country, you know, people sharing resources and just generally looking after each other. And it seems to have been met with a really, really warm reception. And I think it's the sort of thing that a lot of people are looking for at the moment. And I think it's also really interesting to see how a lot of these TV shows, although Some Good News wasn't a TV show before now, it's purely web-based, but it is interesting to see how a lot of these TV shows have gone online or have gone home-based, and in some ways it makes you feel a lot closer to the people that actually host them or are involved in them. And we will have a link to that in the show notes, so check it out. That's it for today's episode. Do you have stories about working from home that you'd like to share with us? Any new online shows you'd like us to check out? Tips you'd like to hear? Or topics you'd like us to cover? Email us wfh@lowerstreet.co. That's wfh@lowerstreet.co. And remember to subscribe for new content every weekday.